Welcome back to the channel, fellow Kimyo and Space Cadets. I'm the leader of the Cosmic Armada and librarian of KO.DE Archives, back to bring you another Ordeal video. With the release of Season 3, we will try to do weekly reviews. If you enjoy the content, be sure to like the video, comment your favorite part of the premiere down below, and consider subscribing to the Cosmic Armada with the bell enabled to not miss any further Ordeal videos. Without further ado, let's begin. With each season, we begin with dialogue from who we assume to be Tevin. It gives hints to future events of Ordeal. Tevin states, "I remember that time when we left home. Do you? What was it like for you? You spent some time on your own back then. Do you remember good things? Joy? Growth? Family? For me, the memory is like the pain of a shoulder out of joint, throbbing, and seemingly unending. That pain has little to do with me. It was the time you learned things about yourself no stable grown mind should be able to handle. I saw my brother gasping for air, at his wit's end, yet he wouldn't make a sound. It pains me because I couldn't stop any of it. It seems every light that came into your life was only there for one moment and faded into oblivion the next. Sometimes I wonder if he truly knew what he was creating by teaching you. One thing is certain, you still carry his spark today. What you lost back then should have slowed you down, but somehow that stubborn, hard head of yours is maybe too stupid to comprehend taking your time. You deserve him, and he deserved you. He was lucky to see what it was like to have a son. The short time it lasted, my heart breaks for you, brother. I can't imagine losing a father twice. You hid your anger pretty well at the beginning. How can one not see your actions as justified? What you've seen, what you felt, all this to stop one man. It's been years. I heard of the path you were given. I just hope you're right for all it costs us. This better work." When not only taking into account that Tevin is reminiscing about the past, but also about Shay's very happiness, which will go to show the dark path that Shay has gone down in the future. Him regarding that time as a pain of a dislocated joint, since he was the closest with Shay, he felt that he could have prevented Shay's path. The most important part is him seeing Shay at his wit's end, gasping for air. We have Kimyo trying to uproot the very system itself with the help of others, like Vile and Kane. Shay will come to a point where the very power he has will not be enough. It could lead him to making a desperate decision that costs many lives. This decision can lead Shay being sent to Patmos, since Tevin is saying that no one saw it from Shay's point of view, even though it was a rational decision based off his past, ultimately ending in the ends not justifying the means. K.O.D.E versus Mato Hagan. The chapter can be broken down into 4 scenes. The first scene takes place in K.O.D.E Outpost 37 in the year 1960. We also get the introduction of the previous K.O.D.E heads. Their name and ranks are Russell Henry at the 7th head, Helena Felosa at the 6th head, Matilda Torreson at the 5th head, Gabriel Torreson as the 4th head, John Seok at the 3rd head, Hamil the Giant as the 2nd head, and Adam Ross as the 1st head. Adam Ross states that it took over 100 years for something like this to happen. This would place the God tier system being created around 1800 through 1859, since it has just been over 100 years. K.O.D.E is currently ready to kill Mato Hagan. K.O.D.E is ready to seal Mato Hagan with ordained judgment. Mato Hagan is the current 8th God tier, however, he also has a mini army with him as well. So if K.O.D.E were to seal him, they would be wiped out by Mato Hagan's army. Mato's talent is to collect the talent of any Kimyo that he killed. After the death of Kane, there has been a power vacuum in which Mato believed that he could fill. So in order to prepare for the Great Four and Hasame's eventual arrival, he kills his hand. His hand name is Timothy Syoda, in which his talent was to neutralize all elemental-based talents. Next, Leo pulls up, in which Mato can neutralize Ilios, displaying even more confidence in his plan. We are then introduced to Leo's hand, that we met unknowingly in Season 2. The father of Sabito, Masato Heart. Masato activates his ability and one-shots Mato Hagan. Apparently, Masato's talent can only be used by the Heart Clan members. Most clans have to work with K.O.D.E in order to be recognized as an official clan. This helps maintain the balance of power. However, the Heart Clan can work outside of K.O.D.E means, and was blessed with both an abundance of power and wealth. Also, some members obtain diplomatic immunity as well. So Russell poses a question if he is assisting K.O.D.E to help them or his clan. Masato activates his talent known as Eye of Time and uses the skill called Kokugen-ma, which allows him to have an area in which it seems time is distorted. He wraps himself and his opponent in the orb. He wraps himself and his opponent in a room-like orb. This orb dissipates instantly, but an unknown amount of time has passed, leading to Masato to produce multiple slashes that even a god tail could not predict. We see the color of the eye of time with Masato, but also flash forward to the future to show that Che has the same eye of time. When the god tail are first introduced, we wanted to know what was the checks and balances to them betraying K.O.D.E, and we seen the ordained judgment later on in season 2. This scene goes to show it only works on one opponent at a time. Masato being able to show us a Heart Clan only talent shows that Che will encounter the survivors of the Heart Clan at one point in time. Many believe that for Che to get the Eye of Time, it would have to be considered a talent weapon. This would make the most sense if Che is going to push Ilios' power to their very limit. He will also have to focus on the talent, but having talent weapons increases his versatility with Winter Freezing or the Eye of Time itself. If he was to combine the Eye of Time with Tomas, the time lapse for a super huge Tomas would almost seem instant. However, a mass exuding strong gravity could distort the time lapse of Eye of Time. It is revealed that Tevin is an S-rank Kimyo, ranked specifically number 127. Tevin seems to be tracking someone, as we later find out it is Yukiko. He makes a note that there is a convergence point that is obvious for them to fight. So the fact that she set up an ambush before the point made Tevin consider her fight style more of an assassin. Yukiko tries to attack Tevin, in which he deflects her attack with a bone shield, and she crashes into a building. She then summons 5 ice pillars. Tevin then tries to jump, resulting in all 5 of those ice pillars converging to him, resulting in him getting slammed into the ground. Yukiko is said to go into the Subido's sword and spear stand. She yells out black ice, in which her sword gets coated black with red electricity around it, similar to that of Armament Haki from One Piece. This summons a huge pillar of ice in which Tevin thunderclaps away. This leads him to grab his cookie basher and stop short of Yukiko. He then scolds Yukiko on how to fight an opponent stronger. This results in her saying your armor would have saved you anyway. This is going to show her an emphasis on her assassin-like fighting style. As Luis stops the fight and compliments Yukiko's effort and begins to walk back to their unknown location, Yukiko says that the black ice counters Hasame's own ice and has the property of being burned since it emits extreme cold. This is a technique that Hasame had taught her himself, and said that it was okay for her to reveal to Tevin. I do enjoy the fact that Tevin rank is revealed. Tevin being higher than Andrea during her initial introduction was a great way of showing progression. The inner monologue that Tevin was having goes to show how much more battle experience he has. Yukiko did not disappoint. Usually when we see Hasame ice pillar is after snowfield has been used. It seems that Yukiko is freezing the water in the air in order to make these pillars. She is showing better control with Hasame 8 months in rather than Che when he fought the Golem Brothers in season 1. One thing I forgot to mention is that Hasame taught her. Now Hasame teaching her black ice is a way she is developing a deeper connection with the Hasame talent. Once Tevin, Yukiko, and Luis go back to the remote village, we see Hanjiro, Nico, and Aldous arrive. Aldous says that Yukiko is as skilled as Subido. Although they came speaking light, Anton was the one who knew they needed more from them. It was then revealed that Anton is placed at 118, just 9 spots ahead of Tevin. Yukiko is then given the sword of Subido and Hasame. After receiving the sword, Yukiko then feels sad that she's an heir to a prestigious clan. She states that this sounds like a real tight-knit group of people. Next, we find that there will be a meeting, and Che will be attending as the vessel of Ilios in the last line of defense to defeat Thanatos. Aldous states that Che isn't the same man from 8 months ago. In this case, I enjoyed that Brent paid attention to the timeline. Although the Battle of Mount Jotun was 8 months ago, the Wolf Cubs left Fort Grilling before that. So seeing Yukiko say more than 8 months is really lovely. Che also calls her several times a week, going to show the relationship that they have still continues to flourish. In regards to Hasame's sword, but he won't be at the same capacity of fighting with his Kimyo without being able to channel his talent into a weapon. The fact that Che was stated to not trust K.O.D.E and raw standing he is different from before goes to show not only the power he may have gained, but he could also be consumed with revenge, thus changing his personality. Che is revealed to have been stationed at K.O.D.E Outpost 27. After seeing the course of Italian Hydra express concerns about the security of the island, Hydra states that someone has to stumble upon the island. We then see that Che organized his rations based on calories and expiration date. Che also built a security system with spare parts in order to make sure his friends are okay. There's also a scene showing that Che has been studying the Bible as well. Hydra says we need all the help we can get. Hydra began to turn around, in which he sees Che. Upon seeing Che could not shroud his chi any longer. He still refers to Aldous as uncle. Aldous was unable to move because the chi is so great that it exuded physical weight, and only god tiers are able to do such. It was stated what took Leo years to learn, Che learned chi shrouding in months. We do know that eventually Che will begin to hunt the 10 Titan generals. With his chi being compared to that of a god tier, It is similar to how Tevin's chi was comparable to that of the Titan generals in season 2. Another thing I do want to talk about is how Mahalel has a connection with the creator himself, and while Shay is unable to trust or care about most people, he turns to faith for an answer, which is typical for humans, showing that his suffering is still grounded in realism. The next thing is how his food is organized. You can say that this is a habit from him having to take constant medicine while also being somewhat poor, since he had to fight and destroy his body just to pay for Yukiko's schooling. We do see Chi shrouding to the highest degree with Strength Gaki in season 2, who doesn't just mask his chi, but mask his very soul. Now, earlier Yukiko was compared to Sabito, while Shay is said to have surpassed a certain feat of Leo. I know this video took a while to come out, but I wanted to do a recap and review other chapters to make the very next chapter more digestible for the audience. Also, what was your thoughts for the return of Ordeal? Do you enjoy the format of this video? Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to not miss any future Ordeal reviews, and go to my Wolf Nara page if you would like to have weekly Ordeal reactions. Now, Kimyo and Space Cadets. Let's move on to episode 114, titled The First Tape. The title has two meanings. The first is that this is the first time we see the 4 pillars, and the first time that an additional pillar has been added to the KODE 4-pillar system. The next thing is that this is the first time that the Wolf Cubs themselves have been invited to a S-rank meeting at the KODE headquarters in Japan. The episode itself can be broken down into 3 parts, so let's get started. Berserker Che. The first scene immediately shows the change in Che. When we last left Che, he was becoming a shell of his former self. Che had constantly lost people he had cared about and had been powerless to save them, although he was the strongest he has ever been. When defending one land, he left his homeland and sister unprotected, at least from his point of view. When taking a look into Che, he refers to Aldrich as uncle, while Nico and Handro as KODE, showing the love that he still has for Aldrich while reflecting the distrust that he's grown to have for the KODE organization. Aldrich shows the opposite sign to Che by apologizing for not calling him his title of Lord Heart. This one line makes Che emotionally disconnect from Aldrich as well, but we will explore that a little later. We see that Aldrich asks about the Thanatos scouts laying around and asks why Che has not contacted him. Che smugly states, live combat practice chairman, going to show that Che has completely acknowledged the hierarchy's importance in the conversation and refers to his uncle as chairman and the others as their position in the seven-headed lion. When training with Yorn, there was a time where he would spar with Yorn's hide. Now, this combat training is causing more earthquakes in which Ross has to inform neighboring islands that it is a dormant volcano. When taking into account Tevin's speech from the previous chapter about Che hiding his anger real well at first, and now Ross comparing Che to a dormant volcano, it would be considered the perfect analogy for Che's emotions. Nico realizes that there are 6 heads being mounted on a cliff. Che refers to them as his wind chime, and that they alert him to how many enemies there are because they scream once they see the heads. One brief thing to take note of is that Che is losing his moral compass after being left alone, wallowing his own anger for 8 months, made him a lot less civilized and a lot more savage. Another thing is that it seems that Titan generals also have Kimyo with them as well, going to show that Che combat prowess has increased while dealing with multiple enemies. Not only that, up until this point, he has dealt with 6 Titan generals since the scouts themselves look more like ordinary Titans. Che then begins to spell pity emanating from Nico. He then describes what he read in the KODE documents. This gruesome scene being brought up to Nico reveals the mental state of Che. It seems that Che is consumed by grief, even taking on the grief of those he may have never known. Che was regarded in season 2 as the type of person to shoulder all of the burden on his own, and typically does not share his thoughts and emotions completely with others. The only person so far he has shared his emotion with, at least in one instant, is Andrea. After Nico notices Che wind chime and he explains the gruesome scene, Che begins to lose patience and demands Senator Gary's location be revealed to him, at which Aldrich is unable to do so, even with KODE resources. He states that the world policy is beyond KODE's jurisdiction. It's going to show that KODE is not the end-all be-all, as we assumed the previous season. From the world perspective, Gary took years to plan this coup and the genocide of Trinidad's Kimyo. From our perspective, we knew there was a plan to have all the ministers take the fall, but it seemed due to Gary's outburst, he solely took the fall. After stating the limitation, Che is advised that he is to attend a meeting in 3 days, and he is ordered to dress accordingly. This meeting is to hold all 150 S-rank Kimyos to inform them on the upcoming plan to stop Thanatos. KODE Meeting 11,342. As we shift to the next scene, it seems that the meeting is running 2 hours behind schedule. Tevin states that it had taken 8 months for the heads of state, KODE, and the KCG to agree on how to tactically respond to the threat of Thanatos. We then see Mikhail, the 8th god tier. He was 9 before, but due to Yoren's death, everyone was moved up 1 rank. As Yoren was the 8th lord, Banny took his spot and then moved up 1 spot to become the 7th lord. We are introduced to the 4 pillars of KODE and their rank. Eric Edward at rank 45. Next is Holder Tanner at rank 32. Then we have Uni Taylor at rank 28. And last we got Uncle Thunk, Grimbor Jin at rank 21. As Jin connects the extinction of the Heart Clan to Shay's tardiness, going to show his extreme personality and how he feels that the rules must be upheld. Then we have Tander telling him that it is not that serious, while Edward and Taylor are not focused on Shay at all, rather than the massive death toll that could occur due to the threat being Thanatos himself and how many lives may be sacrificed. This conversation not only reveals their true focus, but shows how their personality contrasts with one another. As Shay arrives, Yukiko expresses a shocked look on her face. Although she doesn't see her brother, she can feel something is off. The light that is emitted by Shay upon his arrival is being compared to the brightness after an eclipse. Shay then takes a seat as the first 5th pillar in history with a classified S rank. Yukiko sees the damage that Shay has undergone over the last 9 months. He is also missing an eye, which is a major difference physically that she immediately noticed. Jin then gets mad that Shay did not appear in white, which signifies the color of the white blood cells that protect the body, in which Shay transitioned his greenish black clothes to an all white top. Essentially, by getting mad, Jin was saying that they are what is protecting the general public of Kimyo kind, and their clothes reflect. Aldrich states that they will forgive Shay for being tardy. Shay then apologizes and stated that he was being held up, going to show he may have been fighting a Titan general or scout right before arriving at the meeting. The meeting then begins. It is said that Gary, who Shay demanded to be brought to before is being held in custody until trial. When we look at Gary's face, we do see he is saddened, but due to the powers at B, he is hopeless as well. Ian is then brought up as the following topic. Him consuming the serum made KODE investors feel that he is their property. Now he is on trial, going to defend his very Kimyo autonomy. However grim his situation is, Ian is shown smiling, just going to show how much he believes that the righteous shall prevail. This belief in justice is also why Migdale was the talent chosen by the serum that is most reflective of his heart. Since Thanatos' army had been preparing for his revival since Leo was a teenager, they have had an unquantifiable amount of resources dumped into the revival. It is stated that it would be hard to find Thanatos this time. In the past, it was said to, however, Leo and Jaime stumbled upon him as he was leaving one of his bases. We also see that Thanatos needs both human and Kimyo to grow his power as well. Aldrich states that Mikhail will be the head of the search for the Thanatos base. KODE will be targeting Thanatos' army resources to mitigate the amount of moves he can make before he gets too powerful, essentially taking more of his chess pieces off the board before they can put him in check. It is stated that they will use 3 of the great talents to then converge onto Thanatos to stop him ultimately. The meeting is then over. Although Shay is stronger than he has ever been, it is alluded back in episode 113 that he will be at his wit's end, meaning the other great talents will ultimately fail at the Battle of Thanatos. Maybe because of their lack of communication, or it could be KODE miscalculating Thanatos' strength. You let me know down below. Reuniting with the Wolf Cub. This scene starts with the Cubs acknowledging they are living in a time where war is imminent and the peace Leo fought so hard for will be over soon. We stated that Leo would not be pleased seeing them involved. This just goes to show how far they had all come from the moral compass Leo tried to instill into them. However, Leo's righteous nature continues to push them forward. Yukiko then calls Shay over. We then get to see the banter that the Cubs are known for, with Tevin teasing Shay about his newfound position and congratulating him. Luis tells him that he hasn't seen his sister in almost a year and has her anger to attend to, and Anton nonchalantly waving. We know that Anton typically keeps his deepest thoughts to himself, but we do see how he feels about the Wolf Cubs in season 2 while talking on the phone. Tevin then acknowledges Che's newfound burden by asking him, is he okay? In which we then see a glimpse of old Che saying to Tevin that he would face Thanatos 1,000 times if it meant keeping them safe. Yukiko is now at a private school and is using tutors that KO.DE provided, just going to show Yukiko, although powerful, will need the necessary education as the next head of the Heart Clan. We then see Azam walking with Lord Abijah. We get an update on Azam stating he has been working with Abijah for 2 months and has been avoiding Tevin attempts to contact him. When Azam looks at Che's scars and his missing eye, it reminds him that he isn't alone in his suffering. When Yukiko calls him over, it reminds him of the person that the woman he loves sacrificed herself for, and it's constantly a reminder of his very failure, which is why he never contacts them back. As Azam returns, he lets out tears, and Che reminds him that the wolf cars are one and the same. If they are all alone, they are together, and that they all still carry Leo's flame, which keeps them all connected. Che then promises that it will be over soon, in which Azam feels a huge sense of relief while being embraced. It is then revealed that Anton is invited as the 7th head of KO.DE. Art. I do briefly want to talk about the art for season 3 thus far. The first thing we see is that Brent has refined his art even more. Season 1, he used a lot of hard lines to make the character design pop, but when making certain faces, the line would almost contort the face, leaving a less natural look. While in season 2, we see less of the hard lines, which allow Brent to shape the face around the expression naturally. The downside to that is that sometimes the face would seem unproportioned depending on the angle. So far with season 3, he has combined the hard lines with the expressions and body being built around it. ORDEAL has always had great coloring, and now Brent is able to show similar coloring with the character and background while also making the character stick out more with the hard line. Brent is able to distinguish perfectly the background and the character themselves with the hard line while also not taking from either or. Although the background itself blurred, it is still a natural part of the scene. Another thing I want to talk about is coloring for the eyes this season, which exhibits a lot more glow to them rather than a normal base color that we see with season 2 that improved upon the soft coloring of season 1. Coloring for the eyes this season exhibit a lot more glow to them rather than seen in previous seasons. We look at Yukiko from season 1, her eyes doesn't exhibit the same glow, and it seems a lot softer than the eyes that we see for her in season 2. While in season 3, it seems to combine both eyes while giving a hardened glow look to it, at least from my perspective. Anyway, this is all I got for the recap and review of both episode 113, the season premiere, and episode 114, the first table. If you would like for me to go deeper into the art, I can with a different video. Did you enjoy the inclusion of the art section in this video? Did you enjoy the structure of the first half of the video, or did you like the second half more? Let me know down below. I tried to go with 2 different writing styles for both halves. I don't know if you guys noticed. What are you most excited for this season? What was your favorite moment of both of these chapters? Nonetheless, this is Wolf Nara, leader of the Cosmic Armada and librarian of the KO.DE archives. I'm out.